Hey everybody, this is Coach Noah coming to you at the Nutrition with Noah show, and today's episode is all about experimenting with protein. And so I want you to do is listen to the thoughts that Joshua Rosenthal talks about in Integrative Nutrition about this step around experimenting with protein and see what triggers you, see what causes you to do some new thinking, some new feeling for yourself about the kind of protein that you eat. So I'm going to share a bunch of thoughts from the chapter. That's right, it's from Integrative Nutrition right here. I want you to go to CoachNoah.com and download the first two chapters and the free 3-week study guide to get started with this. But for right now, we're jumping ahead into the 12-step integrative nutrition program, and experimenting with protein is the step we're focusing on tonight. So here's some thoughts. Joshua talks about how the majority of Americans, they eat way too much protein. In general, I'm not saying you're eating too much protein, but in general, as a population, the majority of us are eating way too much protein. However, the O blood type, you remember back to when we were doing dietary theories, the O blood type from the blood type diet by Dr. D'Adamo talks about how O blood types may need more protein, more animal forms of protein more often to maintain a healthy blood type. The other thing about protein is for many people with heart disease, cholesterol, high blood pressure, cancer, actually reducing the intake of animal protein can be correlated with the reduction of symptoms. For many people, you look at the work of Dr. Dean Ornish and Dr. Joel Fuhrman and Dr. Neil Barnard, all of these cutting-edge integrative medicine and functional medicine doctors are on the leading edge of reducing animal intake, animal product intake, being correlated with the ending of heart disease, cancer, high blood pressure, hypertension, diabetes, you name it. So that's really worth looking at. I'm not necessarily in this episode advocating for one thing or another, but really attempting to give an overview of how you can start to begin with experimenting the way you think about, the way you eat, the way you use, the way you feel when it comes to different forms of protein. Now, to go back to those doctors I was just mentioning, the vegan lifestyle, like Bill Clinton has popularized this in a big way. After his third heart surgery, he took on a vegan or a primarily vegan lifestyle, which, of course, whenever someone in his position takes on something like that, there's going to be controversy, there's going to be questioning around it, and there's no questioning that it has changed his life. It has prevented him from going into surgery again. It's done wonders. And that vegan lifestyle, with the study around the China study, again, Dr. Esselstyn, Dr. Campbell, and the other doctors I mentioned, Dr. McDougall, these are all nutritional medicine doctors who are bringing the vegan lifestyle to the forefront of our culture and showing how it can reverse disease. Now, when we start talking about vegetarian and vegan forms of proteins, we're going to talk about beans. Beans is very typical in many different diets around the world. When you're thinking about soybeans, however, you may just want to do a moderate quantity, because for some people, soybeans can actually have an effect on the effectiveness of their digestion. Also, soy intake, increased soy intake has been correlated with a reduction in thyroid function and also in an imbalance in hormone functions, particularly in women and particularly around menopause. So those are things you want to be aware of. Do your own research with. The information I'm referring to is from the Integrative Nutrition book by Joshua Rosenthal, so that's a good place to start. For those of you who are vegetarians but are not concerned about being completely vegan, eggs are a really great source of protein, especially when they are hormone-free, cage-free. There's even beyond cage-free, which is making sure that the chickens who laid the eggs actually had free range farms to really peck at that grass and not be cage-free but still be in some sort of confinement. So those are things to do research on as well when you're shopping. I know there's a lot of information I'm giving you in this episode, and protein and experimenting with protein and learning how to be conscious of the proteins we put in our body is a big topic, has a huge effect on our lives that we may not think about. Think about beef. Beef is huge in this culture. And how often are we thinking about beef alternatives? How about like the kind of farm-raised beef? What about not just getting factory farm beef that you can get in most any supermarket, but what about getting grass-fed beef? There's plenty of places you can order directly from the farmers now. There's CSAs like the one my family goes to, where you know that the animals have been treated humanely. You have a relationship with the farmer. You can ask them questions. You see their standards for taking care of the animals. So humane treatment is a huge amount. Then the question becomes, well, how much animal protein is the right amount for me? And that's something you need to listen to your body around and really think about for yourself. But one of the best suggestions that I've come across in the Integrative Nutrition book comes from a Dr. Barry Sears, who many of you may know about. But Barry Sears talks about that the amount of protein is going to be the size of your palm at a given meal. So for me, it's going to be a little bit more because as you can see here, I have big hands and big palms. But for those of you who just want to look at the size of your palm, and that is a good estimation of a good dose of protein, particularly animal protein, at a meal with your other food groups. So Joshua has a conversation about protein where certain kinds of animal protein can give the body a certain kind of energy, a certain sense of power, of self-esteem, of a real sense of confidence. And he points out that most CEOs, politicians, and athletes in those groups, these really top-performing, high-energy individuals, you don't necessarily find a lot of vegetarians or vegans in that category. Now that's changing with the work of people like Brendan Brazier, who is a very well-known vegan triathlete. He's been promoting a vegan lifestyle for the last 5, 10 or more years. I know when I worked at Whole Foods, we sold an incredible line of sports nutrition from him. So it's not that people in these top-performing, high-energy positions are not vegan, but the majority Joshua is talking about. Again, the theory at Integrative Nutrition is about bio-individuality. Each one of us needs to discover what the right food sources are for our own needs, our own energy at each of us, being at different stages in our lives. This food is not a religion. There's not a heaven for vegetarians, Joshua points out. However, there is a fuel to discover that's suitable for you. And there are food choices that benefit the humaneness of treating animals and the planet and the effects that we have on through our food choices. So I'm bringing all that up for us to think about it, to discuss it as a community, and for you to start to have the kind of education and resources and tools to really think about making the choices that are best for you and the kinds of experimenting you want to do with protein. So, again, what I want you to do is go to CoachNoah.com and download the first 2 chapters of Integrative Nutrition so you can start delving into this material. When you download the book, after you sign up for my mailing list, you will get a 3-week study guide and some great material from the book. Thank you so much for watching the Nutrition with Noah show today. It was great to connect with you. Again, thank you for being my precious listeners, my audience. I'd love to hear from you and offer you any support that you need in experimenting with your own protein intake. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Take care.